The number one reason your serger stitches fail, it's not your machine, it's your thread. And today I'm clearing up the mystery once and for all, which threads to use, what those thread numbers really mean, and a few hacks you're gonna love. Hey Serger Bees, I'm Sookie, your serger coach, here to help you build confidence with your serger, one stitch at a time. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which serger threads to use and never be confused again. Let's get started with thread quality. One of the biggest stitch problems I see with beginners and seasoned serger users alike comes down to thread. Even with perfect tension, bad thread can mean breakage, skip stitches, uneven tensions, and a linty mess in your machine. Here's what I look for. It should feel smooth, feed evenly off the cone, and snap cleanly when tugged. If it frays or feels dry and fuzzy, it's not worth using. And though technically threads don't expire, darker colors like black and navy can really break down a lot faster because of the heavy dyes. So give those spools a little extra check before you start stitching. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I love thrifting with my daughter Heidi. But thread, that's not something I trust unless it passes my test. If it doesn't, it goes on my shelf for decoration, but never in my machine. And while we're talking about shelves, storage matters. They may look pretty in a rainbow row on the wall, but light and dusk will break the threads down over time. So that's why I keep mine tucked away in drawers, and that way they last longer and stitch better. So if your stitches are giving you grief, check your thread first. Sometimes just swapping out an old spool is all that it really takes. Not all thread is made for the high speeds of a serger. Use the wrong kind and you'll end up with skip stitches or broken threads. That's why the next thing we need to talk about is thread types. Let's go through some of the most common ones you probably already have in your stash or you might want to add. And if you want to check out some of my faves, I've linked them in the Amazon faves list below. The number one thread to know is standard serger thread, not to be confused with sewing machine thread. Sewing thread is usually 3-ply and it can be cotton or polyester. General purpose spools are polyester, often correspond with a strong polyester center wrapped in cotton or polyester fibers for extra durability and a softer look. By comparison, serger thread is typically 2-ply polyester, lighter, smoother, and made for the high speeds of a serger. And keep in mind, your serger is using 3 or 4 threads at a time, not just the top and bobbin like on a sewing machine. So if you add the extra 3-ply bulk with the sewing thread, you'll end up with a stiff, heavy seam instead of one that moves with your fabric. For everyday seams, my go-tos are Mettler Cerakote and Maxi-Lox. This is the thread I recommend building your stash around. If you're going to invest in thread, this is where to do it. And when you're choosing basic colors, don't just grab black and white. Cream and gray are much more versatile because they blend in with so many fabrics. And ladies, you know what I mean. It's like wearing a nude bra under a shirt instead of a white. The nude just disappears. It's the same idea as thread. And on a 3 and 4 thread overlock, let your needle threads match your fabric since they can peek through, and keep your loopers neutral with the cream or the gray. So if you have to use sewing machine thread in a pinch, that's fine, but don't make it a habit. Let's talk about woolly or fluffy thread. This soft, stretchy thread puffs up beautifully, making it perfect for rolled hems, athletic wear, and decorative edges. But here's the important part. It belongs in the loopers only. It's too bulky for the needle eye, and forcing it here can actually damage your machine. My favorite is Wonderfill Soft Lock from the Sookie Sews Fluffy Bee box, but you'll also get great results with Maxi-Lox Stretch, Superior Threads Poly Yarn, or Woolly Nylon. I do recommend polyester-based versions like Soft Lock, Poly Yarn, or Maxi-Lox Stretch. They recover nicely and won't give you trouble under the iron. Nylon works too, but be careful, it can melt with high heat. And if threading fluffy thread gives you a hard time, use a threading aid, or thread cradle, which works for both manual and air threading sergers. If you want stitches that stand out with a bold, hand-sewn look, 12-weight cotton thread is pure magic. In my pocket guide to sergers, I literally call it magic thread. I love spaghetti from Wonderfill, but you can also look for Aurifil or Sulky 12-weight cotton. It works in both needles and loopers, and even in a sewing machine for top stitching, or the bobbin works too. In flat lock stitches, it shines. In the needle, you'll see it in the ladder side, and in the looper, you'll see it on the squiggly side. It also looks great in rolled hems or 3 and 4 thread seams. Just lengthen your stitch to 2.0 or more so it lays nicely. Use a 9014 ELX 705 needle to help it glide without shredding. Oh, and don't forget the sparkle. Metallic threads are gorgeous, but they can be a bit of a diva. I usually recommend them in the loopers, though you can try them in the needle if you swap out a 9014 top stitch or metallic needle. And fun fact, those are actually the same needle, just with different names. And to keep your metallic threads happy, slow your speed down. Use a thread net or stand that's aside from the one on your machine. And if needed, you can use a drop of sewer's aid to the spool. Start by loosening the looper tension just a touch for breathing room. And be ready to experiment since every serger is different. Some brands of metallic I love are Wonderfill Dazzle, Wonderfill Glamour, Superior Thread Razzle Dazzle, and YLI Candlelight. Even embroidery metallics work if you want a finer shimmer. And keep in mind, metallics take patience. Adjust your tensions, your stitch length, or even differential feed if needed. Keep samples in your serger journal so that next time you'll know exactly what worked well. Lastly, for thread types is machine embroidery thread. These are usually rayon or polyester with a soft, shiny finish. They're great in the loopers for decorative edges or rolled hems. Just like metallics, test your tensions and go easy. And remember, this is just some of the thread types out there. If you've got a favorite I didn't mention, drop a comment. I might do a video on it. And don't forget some older discontinued threads in your stash. They still might work just fine as long as they pass the Sookie Sews quality test. Now let's dive into thread weight, especially since it can be a really confusing topic. But here's the simple version. With weight numbers, the higher the number, the thinner the thread. So 50 weight is thin, 12 weight is thick. With text numbers, it's the opposite. The higher the text, the thicker the thread. If you're buying from a brand that uses text, look for a conversion chart. The companies who sell thread that way will most often include one. And if you're working with heavier threads in the needle, switch to the larger eye needle, like the 9014. And that's why my favorite is the ELX 705, because it's made specifically for sergers. It's got a groove on both the front and the back, so it's designed to handle the high speeds of a serger, and the eye is slightly bigger so that it gives you room so that the thread will glide through without any shredding. Okay, serger bees, let's talk about a few of my favorite thread hacks. Maybe you're making an outfit that requires a color you rarely wear, and you don't want to buy 4 full cones of serger thread you'll probably never use again. Instead, take that single high-quality cone and wind it down onto empty bobbins. That way, you'll have matching threads for all 4 positions without having to invest in extra cones. Just make sure you use a disc on your serger so the threads don't get caught on the spool pin. And be sure to mark these for future reference. Another thing a lot of serger users don't realize is that spool stabilizers can go in either direction, depending on the size and shape of your cone. So if your cone is wobbling, just flip the stabilizer the other way. It usually fixes the problem right away. Another trick I love is thinking beyond the thread aisle, like using hand embroidery floss. Yep, if you can get it through the looper hole, you can stitch with it. And if your air threading serger won't pull it through the ports, that's exactly why bypass threading exists. Just wind the floss onto an old spool, by hand works fine, or you can glue an empty bobbin to an empty spool and wind it that way. The key is making sure it winds onto the spool evenly and smoothly. Then thread it up, adjust your settings, and start stitching. And have you ever tried stacking threads? I love doing this in the loopers. Feeding multiple threads into a single looper completely transforms the look. One of my favorites is the cotton candy stitch, a Sookie Sews original. I use the Thread Fusion tool by Gail Patrice Designs to combine one fluffy thread with two 12-weight cotton threads, and the result was lush and soft and full, just like cotton candy. You'll see it on the outside edge of my Catherine Crazy Quilt tray liner pattern. And now that you got the scoop on Serger threads, check out this video where I walk you through some different stitches. And until I see you next time, I hope you have a creative day. Bye!